Hi, welcome to the first episode of Needles in My Hand podcast. I'm Jackie, and I'll be talking to you about my knitting, my cross-stitching, sewing, and quilting. I live in western Wisconsin, and today is Saturday, May 29th. So the reason I wanted to start a podcast is because there's been so many wonderful people that I've met through my hobbies, and I love watching Flosstube videos and knitting podcasts. And I thought, well, why not just start one? I've been knitting for 27 years. I learned how to cross stitch when I was in college in the mid 80s and didn't really do much with that. Got into knitting and quilting when my kids were little. And then quilting kind of went by the wayside when I had to start taking my kids, driving them all around to their activities. So knitting was the easiest thing for me to do, to take with me. So I would probably say that knitting is my number one hobby, probably my passion, because I feel like I need to knit every single day just for my mental health. And I'm a very slow cross stitcher, but I picked that up about, I think in 2017, I was watching Legacy Knits podcast with Sue and Chelsea, and Sue was talking about Flosstube, and I thought, I'd never heard of that. And she was talking about Priscilla and Chelsea, and that it was interesting. It was a mom and daughter, and Sue and Chelsea are a mom and daughter team. So I started watching Priscilla and Chelsea, and then they were talking about Farm Girl, Michelle Rudy. So I found her channel, and then I was lucky enough to be able to attend the Midwest Cross Stitchers retreat in October of 2018, and I met so many wonderful people. They were so welcoming, and I realized how silly I was that I didn't even realize. I met people and I knew they had done floss tubes, but I met so many people and I thought, oh my goodness, these people are really good. And I was smart enough not to do the smalls exchange because I knew that I needed to up my game before I even contemplated doing something like that. So I have a little more confidence now. I have finished things. I've given some things for gifts, which I feel like the people have received them well. And so let's just get right into it. Okay, I'm going to start with my cross stitching and some finished pieces that I've done just this year. So the first one is, I'm going to get the pattern. It's called Gnome Sweet Gnome. Let's see. By Raise the Roof Designs, Susie Reno, and I was lucky enough to meet her at that retreat that I went to, and she was just so kind. And at that time, I didn't even know that she had designed cross stitch. So now she was just, I guess what it all comes down to is we're all humans. And even though some people have 20,000 followers or 10,000 followers, we're still all human beings in the end. So I did that, and I was able to finish it myself. It was the first time I'd ever pinned anything. So, I mean, it's definitely mistakes. So the only thing that I changed is my name starts with a J and my last name starts with a Q. And on the pattern, the J is purple. And I'm a Packer fan, so I thought I can't have my initials be purple and gold, so I made it green and gold. Then I found the frame at Hobby Lobby, and I painted it. And then on the back, I just put a piece of scrapbooking paper and then wet it a little bit, so when it shrank, it's pretty tight. So that's the first thing that I fully finished by myself in a framed piece. And then the second thing that I finished this year was Land That I Love. And I put it on, this board was, it came just like this from Hobby Lobby. And actually underneath the painting says Land That I Love. But I covered some sticky board with this fabric and then put this on there. And this was a pattern by Birds of a Feather. And my friend Daylene stitched it, and I asked if I could stitch it after her. And so she gave it to her friend Barb to stitch. And then Barb stitched it and sent it to me. And they had both signed it, the date that they had stitched it. So then I stitched it and signed the pattern and then sent it on to Janet Jabber so she could do it too. So that was kind of fun. It's like the traveling pattern. So this board is, this is, if you, I don't know, it's from Hobby Lobby if anybody's interested. And I have a funny, so my husband, Tom, went to Milwaukee for Brewer games that weekend of May 15th, 16th. He went down there with his brother, and I had the whole weekend to myself. So I thought, I'm just going to stitch, and I didn't have to worry about dinner, and I just stitched until I think the first night, 2 in the morning, because I just thought, oh, I want to get this done so I can pass it on. And when I finished it, then I thought, okay, I'm just going to fully finish it. And I kept going back. Should I put it on a board, something? Should I put it on, make it into a pillow? So in my head, I was going to make it into a pillow. So when I pressed it, and then I cut around with a 1/4 inch seam, thinking that I was going to just sew it into a pillow. Well, that doesn't work when you change your mind and decide to put it on a board. So what I ended up doing is cutting a piece of muslin for the back, and then I sewed it into like a pillow and turned it inside out. So, and then glued it on here. Yeah. This is a lesson when don't try to rush things, and when you don't have a lot of sleep, just maybe sleep on something and wake up the next day and decide what you want to do. And the only thing, and I guess, I don't know if you can see it, if I put it real close, there's right under this flower, it's like a big blob. I'd used fabric tack to tack it down, and I guess I got too much, and I put a book on top to make it flat, and it seeped through. So, I don't know. And I think this is, it's a 36 count, and I want to say I think it's Wren. I'm not really good at that. I'm going to have to get better if I'm going to do a Flosstube and tell people about the patterns. And I didn't use all the called for floss. I just picked floss from my stash. So those are my finished pieces for 2021. And the next piece that I've been working on, again, I'm a slow stitcher. So I started Mary Steed by Hands Across the Sea. And I buy a lot of PDFs, and then I put it in my PDF. Yeah, let's see, I'll make it bigger. I don't know if I can, so I guess I don't want anybody. So I use Knit Companion is the app that I use to put my PDFs in, so it works for my knitting as well as my cross stitching. So this is how far I am. Oops. So that's how far I am on that. I'm using the called for threads, which are a Versoix. I believe that's how you say that. So I'm using all the called for threads. And this is a 40 count. Picture this plus, I think this is Wren as well. So that's my current work in progress. Now next week is the Blackbird Designs weekend that Brenda and the Serial Starter, the first weekend of every month, they thought, they thought it would be fun for people to stitch Blackbird designs. So my plan, which I think the majority of people are doing, is to stitch something out of Souvenirs of Summer. And what I'm going to do is this one, which is Summer Jubilee. I love that pattern. I'm going to use, this is linen that I dyed myself. And I believe I used denim blue. I can't remember. I did it last March during, the first lockdown. And then I tea stained or coffee tea dyed it and then put it in the oven. And then here's all the threads that I'll be using for it. I have all the called for threads, except I don't have hibiscus, so I'm just gonna figure something out. And the blue I'm using is not the blue it's called for. I'm using Blue Jay because you don't have that much of it. And I thought I'm trying to be smart and use some of my stash instead of just buying new threads for everything. I'm trying to use the stash that I have because just like every hobby I have, I've turned into more of a collector. I don't always finish things, but I like to collect, which I guess that's the fun thing about hobbies. Okay, so that's one of my projects that I'm going to be starting. And then Sherry, the Colorado cross stitcher, she's doing virtual stitch camp. So in June, you pick a pattern of something that somebody has inspired you to do. So Susie Reno shared this pattern on Instagram quite a while ago, and I fell in love with it because I absolutely love red houses. So that's my project for June, and I'm using 36 count R&R linen in Beach Brew. And again, I think I'll just pull some colors. I don't know if I have all the called for colors, but I'll just pull the colors from my stash that match as close as possible to the pattern. So that's my plan for June. The Blackbird designs for the next weekend, and then starting June 1st, I'll do the little red cottage. And I'm going to share this project bag that I made because, let's see, Nicola from Bumble Stitches was talking about, she and Elizabeth Can Stitch had a project bag along, I believe, on Instagram. So I watched Nicola's tutorial to do the patchwork, and this is inspired by Christy, Crosshatch Quilts. And then Elizabeth Can Stitch has a tutorial on her YouTube channel, but I also watched Suzette of the Primitive Stitcher because she also has a really good tutorial to help with project bags. So I just threw in some sewing. Okay, so, and then if I don't know, my progress in June, because the goal for Stitch Camp is to finish in a month. And I'm a slow stitcher, so I'm not sure if I will. But if I do, then my next project will be this new one by Brenda Gervais, Happy Birthday America. And I did get the kit, so you put the, you set this on here and then you make it. And then the kit also came with the pom-pom trim. So that'll be my next project as far as cross stitch. Okay, so I'm going to jump into my knitting. So again, like I said, I've been knitting for 27 years. And in 2007, I started a project, and I'm not finished with it. It's kind of a long-term project, obviously. So it is, I'm sure a lot of people have seen these. So it's a blanket when you use minis or scraps. So I can tell for sure this one was left over from a pair of socks that I made for my daughter when she was in elementary school, and now she's almost 27 and going to be getting married. So this project is a long-term project, and my goal now, I have decided that 2021 is the year I'm going to finish it. So I took off some on one edge because I thought it was too long. So now I'm just going to make it longer, and I think I probably have about maybe 10 more rows to go, and then I think it'll be big enough to have it be for a baby blanket. Because someday, when my kids are ready, I will look forward to being a grandma. So that's just a sock yarn blanket, and there's a lot of patterns online that you can find for that. And then I always have a pair of socks on the go because they're just easy to take along. And how I do my socks is I do them 2 at a time, but not on the same needle. So So that's how I do socks. So I knit a little bit on this one, and then I'll take this one, and then I'll knit a little bit on this one. The green yarn is left over from a skein of Woolmiza that I had, a pair of socks that I gave a friend. And then this is a mini, I think Kay from the Bakery Bears dyed this gold. So these are gonna be shorty socks. So I'll just knit to the heel, put the yellow in the heel, and then just put a little bit at a cuff. So they'll just be shorty socks because I don't have enough yarn to make a whole another pair of socks, even though Woolmiza has, I believe, 510 yards in a skein, which is very generous, and you don't usually need that for a pair of socks. So that's my work in progress right now. And then another work in progress, I am making a shawl. It's called Triangle Parade. Let me see, I'll bring it up on my iPad. I like PDFs because they're easy. I can have, again, this one is in my Knit Companion app. And so I can go back and forth and it's just right on my app. So that is the shawl. I hope you can see that. By Stephen West. And let's see, I'll get it. So I'm on section 10 of 13 sections. So it starts like that. And I'm using 4 of the skeins are Madelinetosh Light, and 1 of the skeins is from the Woolen, the Woolen Rabbit that I had in my stash. And this is Caveman Blue. So the dark blue is this one. And then I'm using the yellow is Candlewick. The white is Antler. The pinkish is called Copper Pink Solid. And then the grayish blue is Aura. So I have a fun story about Kim from the Woolen Rabbit. She's a yarn dyer, and I started reading her blog, oh gosh, probably in 2007 or 8. And I was drawn to it because she has Cavaliers, and we have 3 Cavaliers. And so it was fun reading about her dogs and knitting and her yarn dyeing. And in 2010, she had a dog that was born, and it was just a single little girl. And so I would read her blog, and then she had shown a picture a couple months later of another dog, and I thought, well, wow, she just got another puppy. And I had asked her why she got another dog, and she had said that Ellie, the one that was born in January, was probably not going to be show quality, and that they would probably be looking for a pet home. So then my wheels started turning, and I asked her if she would consider sending her, if I could buy her. I had how old was Todd at the time? Maybe a 1-year-old Cavalier. So I knew the breed. And so she agreed to let me buy Ellie. And Ellie flew on a plane to Wisconsin. Well, she flew to Minnesota. And then I picked her up in Minneapolis. So that's kind of a fun connection with one of my hobbies, that now I was able to get a dog. And Ellie's, she's a sweetheart. Someday maybe I'll show pictures, or I don't know how to insert pictures yet. And maybe they'll get to come up here. But right now I have 3, and they can't be up here with me because they'd all want to be on my lap. But yeah, she doesn't have any teeth because her teeth were real bad. So her tongue hangs out the side. But she's a sweet dog. And then we have 2 other Cavaliers named Crosby and Charlotte, and they're litter mates. I got them in 2016. And I went just to get one puppy, and I fell in love with both, and I couldn't decide. And I had to wait 2 weeks because I was on jury. I couldn't pick them up right away because I was on jury duty. And so then I went back, and I thought, well, if she's still there, maybe I could get her. But I thought, oh, for sure someone would adopt her. Well, when we went back to pick up Crosby, Charlotte was still, well, she wasn't Charlotte at the time. The little female puppy was still available. And oh, she was so cute, and they played together so well. And I thought, I just can't leave her here. So I texted my husband and asked him if I could get her. And he said, it's up to you. He kind of knew the writing on the wall. So I was able to get her as well. And then when I got home, he was laughing because he said, you were already in the car on the way home. And I said, no, I honestly wasn't. He said, but did it really matter if I said that? And I said, well, probably not, but I thought I'd let you say. But so I have 3 Cavaliers. So they enjoy my hobbies because when you're sitting down, you can be knitting and cross stitching. And so my lap is available, and usually I have 2 on my lap. Ellie and Crosby are the ones who like to lay on top of me the most. And then Charlotte's nearby. And then our son, who is 24, he was able to get a Cavalier. So when he comes and works with my husband, his name, or my son is Patrick, but he brings Sebastian, and then Sebastian sits with his grandma. And he's a sweetheart, and he gets along with my dogs. So the weeks that they're here, I'm in heaven because I have 4 Cavaliers then. And I don't know if you know about Cavaliers, but they're the sweetest dogs ever. I love all dogs, so I'm just saying I'm partial to Cavaliers. So I know that there's a lot of other wonderful breeds out there. I'm just saying what I'm partial to. Okay, so as far as future knitting plans, I discovered a yarn dyer on Instagram, and their yarns are called Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit yarns. And if people know, I adore rabbits, and I do have a lot of rabbits around my house. Not real ones. I decorate with rabbit pictures and sculptures and things like that. So my next pair of socks will be, this is the colorway with Joy. So if you can see, it's a light gray with some speckles in it. And the wonderful thing about Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit's yarn is that they started a Zoom group, and I believe it's about every 2 weeks we meet through Zoom, and we have a group chat on Instagram. And it's wonderful because I've met people, a couple people are in the United States, most of them are in the UK. I believe there's a couple in Canada. Well, I know for sure there's 2 in Canada. I'm not sure if there's more. And then I don't know if there's Scotland, I think, but I'm not sure where everybody's from. But it's just been so much fun to get to connect with other knitters through Zoom. You know, I'm still not comfortable seeing myself in a camera. But obviously this last year, if you wanted to see people or be part of things, Zoom meetings were what you had to do. And you also, I was able to figure out that I could talk to people through Instagram video. I figured that out. So that's been fun. So I guess that's kind of another reason I thought, oh, I'm going to do a podcast, because as much as I don't really like hearing my own voice and I don't really like seeing myself, I've done it more over this last year. So I thought, all right, what the heck, just do it. So that Zoom group is really, really fun. So if anybody's out there and is interested in that, look up Mr. and Mrs. Rabbit's Yarn on Instagram. And it's a lovely group of people. They've been very welcoming. That's just the wonderful thing about the knitting community and the cross-stitch community, is everybody's just, we have a common thing of our hobby, and people are just so kind. They're so nice. And when I went to that cross-stitch retreat in 2018, I didn't know a soul. Nobody. I'd seen some Flosstube videos. I didn't know anybody, and everybody was so kind. And it was funny when I got there, you know, I walked into the room and I didn't know where to sit. And so some people invited me over, and the lady that I sat next to, her name is Vicky, and I found out she lives an hour away from me. So that was really fun. I thought, okay, now I met somebody, and I met a couple other people through Vicky, and we have, before the C word, which I'm not going to say, we actually got together here at a coffee shop and knit together. So hopefully those things will resume again. And a funny story is when I went to that, Susie Reno and Linda Joe, Pretty Southern, were going to go to Stitchville, which is a stitch shop in Minnesota. And I thought, oh, I want to go there. I've heard all about it. So I rode with them, and Vicky went, and then Darlene, who used to live in Oregon, but now she lives in Nevada. So I all went there, and then when we got out, Linda Joe got her camera out, and she says, wait, we have to take your video. And I thought, oh no. And then I realized I didn't even know that she was a podcaster, Flosstube, and had thousands of followers. And I thought, oh my goodness, you don't have to put me in this, but she did, because she was kind. Even though I was a nobody, I'm still a nobody, let's be honest. But she was just so kind. And then Susie, her videos, she is one of the funniest people. She's the sweetest person. Oh, she's just a sweet person. But she's got a great sense of humor. And her, if you haven't watched her Flosstube, which I'm sure everybody probably has, you have to, because she's hilarious. I mean, she is, she's really funny. Yeah, she's funny, funny, funny. Okay, so I think that's, oh, one more thing. And I'm going to start a sweater. And I know, crazy, why would you start a sweater in the summer? But I knit year round, it doesn't matter, because I'm lucky I have air conditioning. So my next sweater is going to be made out of this wool yarn from Barrett Wool Company. I hope this isn't backwards. It's backwards to me, but. So I'm going to make the Waves of Change jacket by, oh, is it Byron Handmade? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to try to figure out how to do links and all that. And if I don't, just send me an email. And my email is jmqcreates@gmail.com. But again, I'm going to try to figure all this out. But I'm not real good with technology. And I do have a son who lives in Eau Claire. So hopefully maybe he'll help me figure out how to put links and stuff in there. But anyway, so that's my knitting plans. Okay, what else was I going to talk about? Okay, back to cross stitching. I was watching, I think it was Nicola of Hands Across the Sea, and she showed this a beautiful wooden, I think hers might be bigger, but so of course I went to Etsy and had to order one. And this is by Wood Wool Stories. So there's a place, let's see, for your scissors. This is a magnetic, so you can put needles in there and it sticks. This is like where you put your threads. It's a little Ort jar. And then that just sticks on there. And then there's a pin cushion, and it came with this cute little pin. Isn't that adorable? So it took a couple months, but it was once I ordered it, but it was worth, it's the craftsmanship is unbelievable. Oh, that's right. And then this little sheep is actually, it's a needle minder. See? So you put that on. I don't use needle minders because I stitch in hand. But it's not the most adorable thing ever. So that sits next to me on the couch on my table. So everything's just right there. So I had to share that. Okay, let me see. I do have notes, I'm sorry. Oh, I was going to show something. So behind me, I do have a finished object. I have a lot of knitting finished objects, but this one stays in this room because sometimes I get cold up here. But this is the Habitation Throw from Curious Handmade, and I used minis from my 2018 advent calendar from Dandelion and Dogwood. It was a Gilmore Girls theme. So I used 12 of the 20 gram minis instead of 24 10 gram minis. Okay, so now on to some sewing. Quilting, I don't know. It's not really, are you a quilter if you don't actually do the quilting? I put the pieces together and I quilt little things like that bag, but I don't do my big quilts. I send them to a friend of mine who's got a long arm quilting machine, and she does a good job. But my plan is I'm going to make a rag rug. So I bought this, it's the Notting Hill collection. I bought a jelly roll, and then I bought the batting, the strips. So that's one of my plans. I know that it takes a long time, but what the heck? It'll be worth it. And that fabric's so pretty. And then while I was looking at the Notting Hill collection, they have this cute panel. And you cut it out, and then you use bias. So I bought some Lori Holt bias tape, and then you make a bunting. So I'm in my sewing room. I have 2 windows, and I don't have curtains or valances or anything. So I think I'm gonna just put these together and then use that for my window treatment. So that's another plan. And then while I was looking at the fabric line, I fell in love with this. So these 2 fabrics are going to be another project bag. So I will probably use this one for the outer and this one for the inside. And my friend Daleen, So Grateful, which I'm sure you all know, she was showing cute project bags that she made, and she was using a lace zipper. So I was able to find some lace zippers. So that's what I'm going to do and make a project bag. I've also have plans to make I have the Lori Holt, is it Vintage Farm Girl Vintage? I think it's the first book. It has a flag block in it, and I'm gonna make a project bag, hello brain, with some Lori Holt fabric with a flag on the front. I'm gonna use one of those pieces because Nicola Bumble Stitches had shown how she made a bag. I think she used the strawberry block and turned it into a project bag. So again, like probably 99% of Flosstube people, you know who Lori Holt is, and you know, don't you just want to go sit and sew with her sometime? Oh my goodness, her sewing room is beautiful, and everybody's been wanting featherweights. And I have a machine that was my grandma's. It's not a featherweight because I'm gonna have to take it in. It's been in my basement forever, and I just brought it up here last summer. And everything's with it, so I could take it to, there's a guy in Eau Claire that I can buy, works with sewing machines, and he sells Genomes, but I'm gonna take that down there. But I don't think you can take it out of that wooden cabinet, and that it's very, very heavy. But if he can get it to work, I should probably just use that instead of trying to find a featherweight. Although my dream, and maybe I'll get this, my 30th anniversary is at the end of the year, maybe I'll get a red sewing machine, a red featherweight, because I think is it Hip Stitch in Albuquerque? I think that's where you get the painted featherweight machines. So I'm gonna plant that little bug into my husband's ear, and maybe that can be my 30th anniversary present, because I love the color red. I have red glasses, I'll show you. So these glasses I wear because they're for middle distance, which again, pre last year and having to do everything on Zoom, I realized I couldn't see in my Zoom meetings. So I had to get glasses for that middle distance, which is so weird. But these are my normal glasses. So obviously I love the color red. My nails are red. I think everything should be red. But so I think if I could get a red sewing machine, that would be really, really cool. Yeah. So, and then my last thing that I want to show you is this. Let's see. It's a bobbin winder. So it uses batteries or you can plug it in. So I don't know about any of you when you're sewing, but you know, you're going along and then I hate having to unthread my machine to wind bobbins. And I try to wind a bunch of bobbins ahead of time before I do my projects. But again, sometimes I forget and I just start sewing and then I think, oh, so this, it's an automatic bobbin winder. I thought that was pretty fun. It was I think $20 on Amazon. So that's a fun little thing. All right, so I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna make a podcast every week or every 2 weeks, or I don't know. I'm not gonna make that decision right now because again, I'm a very slow cross stitcher. And it bothers me to have a lot of works in progress. I'm not gonna lie. I have that with knitting and I get overwhelmed. And so if I start a lot of cross stitch projects, because I'm such a slow stitcher, I think that's gonna drive me crazy. So to have the few things that I've already talked about, I wanna finish Mary Steed this weekend before June 1st. And then I will start the Little Red Cottage for cross stitch camp, virtual cross stitch camp. And then next weekend, I will be working on Summer Jubilee. And so that'll be 2 projects going at the same time for cross stitch. And that's probably all I'm gonna do because again, I just get overwhelmed. And you can see I have a lot of knitting going on. You can tell that I have a lot of yarn because I have collected yarn over the years. And the sweater won't take me long because I can knit relatively quickly. And it's thick yarn, so that'll go fast. Sorry with the ums. So, I don't know. Maybe I can come back in 2 weeks and show some progress on some things. And maybe it'll be a month. I don't know. But I just want to thank everybody if you're watching me. I know I have a couple people who said they would watch. I guess my goal isn't to have 10,000 followers, 20,000 followers. I don't know, if a couple people want to join me and see some of my projects, that would be wonderful. And again, I kind of just wanted to do this because I really wanted to give back to the knitting community and the Flosstube community, because this is a little intimidating. I'm not gonna lie. People who've done this over the years, I mean, kudos to you, because it's kind of weird. I started on Tuesday, and I deleted, and I started, and I deleted, and then I was able to go meet with some friends, high school friends actually, and some of us, I mean, one of my friends, we've known each other since preschool, and my other friend, I stayed at her house, she had the party. I've known her since first grade. So I went out of town Thursday, stayed overnight, came home yesterday, thought I should do this, and then I didn't. And then my really good friend Lisa, hi Lisa, she asked me, where's your video? And, I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. So I just decided I'm gonna pull my big girl pants on and I'm just gonna do it. And she gave me a really good advice. She said, just think you're talking to your friends at a knitting retreat or something. So what I have behind my phone over here is I have a picture of her at a knitting retreat. And so I know I keep looking this way, but I should be looking over here at her. So I'll get better at this. But kudos to all the people who have done this, number one. So thank you. I think it would be easier if I had a cohort here with me, but I don't. So, and just thanks. And hopefully that I'll be back in a couple weeks with some progress on things. If not, I'll be back in a month for sure, because then it'll be July and I will have at least one cross stitch project done, and we'll have to start another one. So I've got my plans for July. Check out Sherry's channel. Obviously everybody probably knows her, but June, the project is that you do something that you were inspired by somebody else. So, and then July is, I believe it's a designer that's new to you, or a pattern from a designer you've not done before. Again, words. So my plan is to do a Plum Street. Even though I've got Plum Street patterns, I've actually never stitched one. So that's my plan for July. And then August, you use a fabric or thread that you've never used before. So if you've never used silk, then you can use silk. Or if you've never used a 40 count, try that. But anyway, check out Sherry's blog. Not blog, her Flosstube video, Colorado Cross Stitcher. Okay, well, I'm gonna go. So I hope you all have, if you're in the United States and you have plans for the Memorial Day weekend, enjoy. Our parade, we've done that every year, except obviously last year we didn't, but our tradition is that we go down to the Memorial Day parade, and then we have a family that we've met down there, again, since our kids were little, and then we all go out for breakfast. So my husband's going golfing tomorrow, and I'll have the house to myself, and knitting and stitching will be done. And then Monday, for sure, going to the parade and out for lunch, brunch. So, all right, thank you. I appreciate, if you watch till the end, I really appreciate it. All right, bye.